I had 3 days to figure out the layout of the Hargrove building before the client meeting, and my usual contacts weren't picking up. The building was a 1960s mid-rise in downtown Cincinnati, and the property management company had changed hands twice since the original construction. Nobody seemed to have the original documents. My colleague Marcus told me to just eyeball it on site, but I'd done that before on a job and missed a load-bearing wall that cost us 2 weeks and a very awkward conversation with a structural engineer named Phyllis who clearly thought I was an idiot. So I sat down at my laptop around 9 at night with a cold cup of coffee and typed into Google, Hargrove Building Cincinnati Floor Plan File Type PDF. The first result was a city permit filing from 2003. It had been uploaded by the Cincinnati Planning Commission as part of a renovation approval. 14 pages. I opened it and there was the full second floor, dimensioned, with mechanical room locations, stairwells, the whole thing. Someone had just put it on a government server and left it there for 23 years. I sat back and stared at it for a moment. I'd spent 2 days making phone calls for something that was sitting on a .gov subdomain the entire time. I went back and ran the same search pattern for a project I'd been struggling with a month before, a converted textile mill in Lowell, Massachusetts. I typed Boot Mills Lowell Floor Plan File Type PDF. A university architectural study came up, published by a preservation society. It had the original 1873 structural drawings scanned at high resolution, annotated by a graduate student named Deirdre Chen, whose thesis I apparently now owed a debt of gratitude. I started keeping a list. Every building I'd ever struggled to get documents for. I ran the search on each one that night. The old Sears catalog warehouse in Chicago, a developer had filed variance documents with the city zoning board that included full floor plates going back to 1938. The Meridian Hotel in Atlanta, a preservation nonprofit, had published a measured drawing survey as part of a grant application. A school gymnasium in rural Vermont that I'd once driven 4 hours to photograph from the outside because the district office said they'd lost the originals, so contractor had uploaded a PDF of the asbestos abatement survey to a state environmental database, and page 3 was a dimensioned floor plan. None of these organizations had made any particular effort to share the documents. They'd just uploaded them to do something else entirely, fulfill a permit requirement, publish a report, meet a grant condition, and the files had stayed there, indexed, findable by anyone who thought to ask for a PDF. I called Marcus the next morning and told him what I'd found. He asked me why I hadn't tried it sooner. I didn't have a good answer. I think I'd assumed that if something was hard to get, it was because it was genuinely unavailable, not because I was asking the wrong way. The Hargrove meeting went well. I walked in with printed copies of the second and fourth floor layouts, annotated with my own notes. The client asked where I'd gotten them. I said public records. That was true enough. The thing about the file types PDF part of the search is that it cuts out everything else. No websites with floor plan images embedded in a blog post, no real estate listings with tiny watermark thumbnails, no forum threads where someone says they think they have a copy but can't remember where they saved it. Just documents. Actual files that someone, somewhere, uploaded to a server and forgot about. I've used it for courthouses, hospitals, university buildings, transit stations, factories, warehouses, apartment complexes, and at least a dozen municipal buildings. It doesn't work every time. Some buildings have genuinely no digital paper trail, especially anything built or renovated before about 1995, unless someone took the trouble to scan the originals. And private buildings where nothing has ever triggered a public filing, no permits, no environmental reviews, no grants, those are usually dead ends. But when it works completely. You go from nothing to a dimensioned, source document in under a minute. And you develop a feeling for where to look. City planning portals. State environmental databases. University library archives. Preservation Society websites. Historic district nomination forms filed with the National Park Service. FEMA floodplain studies, which sometimes include surprisingly detailed building surveys as supporting documentation. A woman I worked with briefly, Helena, used the technique to find the mechanical plans for a 1950s laboratory building that the owning institution claimed had been destroyed in a flood. She found them in a PDF appendix to an energy audit report that a consulting firm had published on their own website as a portfolio example. The consulting firm had redacted the client name but hadn't thought to remove the building address from the drawing title block. The documents are out there more often than not. They move around uploaded, forgotten, re-indexed, sitting in subdirectories that nobody has looked at in a decade. The search just has to be specific enough to find the right kind of file and pointed enough to find the right building. I still make phone calls first. It's faster when it works, and sometimes the person on the other end will send you something that was never uploaded anywhere. But the file type search is what I run when the calls don't go through, and now it's usually what I run first.